Honestly.
Home and finish
I don't
partying.
know. I think politics is a winter sport here.
Crazy. It's
Hi,
crazy.
Bruce.
All right. All right. So I actually would like to get started because I have this really a lot of stuff. And actually, I had to cut out so much. I spent like, I don't know, like 20 hours on this one class, like a lot of hours, on this one class. So, I cut out a whole bunch of stuff, but it's still jam packed, and it's mostly jam packed with ideas on working on the issue. So we're gonna do some concepts. So I had so much stuff, and then I had to kind of like break it up and in my head. So I kind of put it all together. And what I did is we're going to go through a bunch of concepts with from the Torah perspective, and then afterwards we're going to have a lot of workshop ideas, and we're dealing with gratitude. It's Thanksgiving week, so how can we not? All right, next week is Thanksgiving, so how can we not talk about thanks? So gratitude turns what we have into enough. I think that's such a beautiful saying, and we're gonna have a lot of them throughout this class. So when we talk about gratitude, the concept of gratitude. So Thanksgiving isn't just a day, it's a way we can live our lives every day. And we're going to see that it's so important in life to have thanks. In fact, we start off our day with Moda'ani. I say Moda'ani lefanecha, right? We start off saying, when you have an attitude of gratitude, you wake up and saying, thank you. That we should realize that Hashem has given us a new day. And when we wake up with that perspective, that God has trusted us with a new day, so then we should believe in ourselves too, that should be empowering to us, that God has our mission in this world, and he feels that we still have much to do. We go back to what Rabbi Sachs says, that we played, Rabbi Sachs said that he's never worried about dying, because if God has stuff for him to do, so he'll be here. If God feels that he's more important somewhere else, so he'll be somewhere else. But if God believes in it, and God believes that we have stuff to do here, so then we should believe in ourselves that we have stuff to do here, and then we should be joyous to jump to the day. And so what do? We say Moda'ani, or for a woman, it's Moda'ani, like a Moreh and Morah. So Moreh is a male teacher, and Morah is a female teacher. So women say Moda'ani. And so why is it not Ani Modeh or Mi Modah? Because the I should come first. So why don't we say the I first? Because we never ever start our day off thinking about us, myself. Shouldn't start thinking about me and what all my needs, but we should start thinking of what can I do? How can I be thankful for all the gifts that I've been giving in this world? And how can I use my talents to help the world, to help better the situations for others as well? We see throughout davening that this idea of gratitude comes up so often. In fact, the only time we have in Shemona Esrei, if you look, the only time that we have in Shemona Esrei where we actually have participation, this is in Chazaras Hashach, the only time that we have participation of a group is in Modim, when we say thank you. So the Gemara tells us that how could it be that only the Shliach Tzibor, only the person who's leading davening should say thank you to God, Modim Anachnu Lach? How could we all should thank God? So everybody should say something. And so that's why during that time, during Modim, we all have to be thankful. So the Sforno writes this beautiful idea. He says that Kol Adam Tzarech L'Kabel B'fanav Ol Malchus Shamayim, that it's not that you could have somebody on your behalf say thank you for you. You can't have a thank you person to go say thank you for you. Every individual has to learn how to say thank you. About shart hatfila, she bakasha, that all the other tefillah that is just a request, so that yochel al yedei shliach, right? It's those that you could ask stuff for by a messenger. Somebody else could go and ask for your needs and so on. But for thank you, you have to be the one to say thank you. We have in Tehillim, the Tehillim 100, a very short mizmor, but a very, very powerful mizmor. And the halacha learns a lot from this one small and another one, and also 107, 100 and 107, that where we ask, we're thankful to Hashem. 107 really spells it out much more of what the Gemara tells us. So the Gemara tells us that there are 4 people who must offer thanks, special thanks. The person who goes through the sea, somebody who walks through the desert, who survives the sea voyage, somebody who walks through the desert, someone who's ill, and someone who's coming out of prison. So all these people we know have to bench gomel. So we have this concept of benching gomel. And not only that, but as we see that Thanksgiving, being thanks, to be able to be thanks is very important in everything in halacha. We had originally the way you would give the thanks that it's talking about is that you bring a korban of hodah, of thanks. And so if you look actually through the psukim in the Torah, it's interesting because this korban is different than all other korbanos. What makes this korban different than all other korbanos? So the Torah tells us that when you bring this korban, so first of all, it says, along with the loaves of leavened bread, he shall bring his offering with the Thanksgiving peace offering. How much, what do? You have to bring loaves of bread. How many loaves do you have to bring?
Oh,
Does anybody know?
hi. You didn't make the meeting today.
Sorry.
Yeah.
How many-
You gotta mute
I
yourself.
muted.
Okay.
How many loaves of bread do you have to bring? Does anybody know? 40. There are 40 loaves of bread that are brought with the korban. And then there's something else that's brought also. It's also given, it tells us in the pasuk that you have, that you don't have the same problem, that you have to eat it all at one shot at night. So the Torah tells us that you have 2 days. I'm sorry. Most although the shlomim, most of the shlomim, you have to eat over 2 days. The Todah you have to eat over 1 day and 1 night. 1 day and 1 night. So why is that? Does anybody know why it is that you have to bring so many loaves of bread and you have only a short amount of time to eat these animals? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
You can share it with your friends and family.
Yeah, because it's impossible for one person to eat it themselves. That's the whole idea of the Sudas Hodah, that when people say they're going to have a Suda, when they're going to have a meal of thanks, so what that meal of thanks requires other people. When you're dealing with thanks, so people want to share that. You want to share the experience with others. And the Torah encourages you. It says it's not going to be thanks unless you're sharing the idea with others. And that's why you have a very small time frame to eat it in, and you have so much to eat, because there's no way you could eat it yourself. You have to bring other people, and then you feel the thanks. That's when you feel, when you actually get up and you start speaking, you say, okay, I remember when somebody had a friend, and he was in the towers in 9/11. He was my chavrusa, and in early morning, I had like a before davening chavrusa. He went to work, and I learned with him early in the morning, and he was in the towers, and they announced to everybody to stay where you are in your office, and if he would have stayed, he would have died, right? And he said, I'm not doing that, and he left, and he ends up going out. And then the towers fell and everything, and he did this big Suda Soda, he did a meal of Thanksgiving, And he talked about at the meal, he talked about the ability that he had to share this experience with people, and how it was special that when he told over the experience, like he actually spoke out the experience and what he was really saved from. Like, it was shocking, but like when he actually spelled it out, it hit home so much more. And it really became like, he was able to express, he was able to express what could have happened, what was lost, when he saw all his friends, when he saw his family there, and he realized how much he had to lose. Then it had a big impact on him. So that's what they want. That's what the Torah wants. That when you were giving thanks to God, you should understand who the important people, all the people that are around you, all your closest family friends who you're going to share this meal with. Those are the people you see that what you have, what God really has given you, not just the food, right? Not just the stuff, but all the people and all the blessings that you have in your life. And then you could properly say thank you. So why do people have so many problems saying thank you? If you see there are people who they never ever say thank you. they kind of like talk around it, but they don't seem to want to say thank you. Why is that? Have you ever met such people? I mean, I see such people. I see people. They have a lot of trouble. It bothers them to say thank you. They'll say other things. They'll say stuff, but it really does hurt them to say thank you.
Makes us feel needy.
Yeah. Yeah. So in order to look at this, we got to go to we'll just look quickly at the first time that we see thanks in the Torah. So the Torah tells us that when Leah had her fourth child, she named him Yehuda. Now, Rashi says, so the real question, so Rashi, the question always is what is Rashi's question? What is like the question behind this? So question is what took her so long? In other words, you should have that as your first child. I had a child. I feel amazing. Like, we just had a child. The first child should be Yehuda. Why did she wait till her fourth child to be named Yehuda of thank you? So Rashi says, Shenatalti yoser mechalki, that I got more than my share. My share was supposed to be 3 boys, 3 to 3, but now I got more than my share. This all is under the assumption that they all knew how many children Yaakov was going to have and so on. But in other words, she feels like God has given her more than she had coming to her. And so the Midrash tells us, the Sfas Emes says on this, that this isn't the only time that we have Yehuda. Yehuda means thank you, right? That here she was thankful that she got more than she should have gotten. So people in life feel that they're supposed to get something, right? They feel like I'm deserving of something. Really, we're not deserving of anything. Really, everything's a gift. Why should we get? There's a lot of people in the world who would kill to have stuff that we have. We're the 1% in the world, right? People don't realize that when they scream and yell that they have indoor plumbing, that's more than a lot of people have in the world. I've been to country. When we went to Russia, when Deborah and I went to Russia, there was no indoor, and now I know it's changed now, but there was no indoor plumbing. We had holes in the ground, and I'm sure there is still now in a lot of places in Ukraine, and there's still holes in the ground. And you have indoor plumbing is a big deal. There's a lot of things that we have that a lot of people in the world actually do kill for. And you hear in the different countries when they're at war, and you hear how much more they stole. They stole $10, $20. It's a big deal to them. But to us, it would be nothing. Couldn't believe that somebody would kill for that. So somebody who feels they got more than they had, then they're thankful. Later on, when it comes to the brachos that Yaakov gives to Yehuda, so he says to him, he uses the word it's very unclear exactly how to 100% how to read this pasuk. So pasuk Yehuda ata yeducha achicha. So the Sfas Emes, he says that the word here could mean Ki Yehuda Heichin Haderech L'chol Bnei Yisrael, that he's pointing to the word that Hoda means, could also mean to admit, right? He's Moda, I admit. So he said he prepared for all of Bnei Yisrael, B'nikra Yehudim al Shemo. That's why we're called Jews, Yehudim, because Yehuda admitted when he was wrong. That he admits to the truth. So Rav Yitzchak Hutner has such a beautiful idea on this. He's writing on Hanukkah. He writes that it's no coincidence that the Hebrew word for expressing thanks and praise is identical to the word for confessing. If the word hoda'ah has a dual meaning, it reveals that these two concepts are indeed related. Rav Hutner explains that whenever we express gratitude, we are also making a confession. We are all like to be self-sufficient, not dependent on the benevolence of others. Last, we all need the help at some stage. And when we thank those who assist us, we are admitting that we cannot manage that on our own. And that's really the reason why people have trouble, because when you're thanking somebody, you're saying, I admit that I really needed you, that I could not do this. There's something lacking in me, whatever that is, whether that's time, whether that's skills, whatever the thing is, there's something lacking in me that I need you to help fulfill me, to help me fulfill myself, to fulfill the things I need done, or to help me with whatever it is. So by saying that, we're admitting our own flaws, and we're saying how you fill them in. This is the bracha that we make, that after we eat food, so when we're not benching, so we make this bracha, borei nefashos rabos v'chezronan. So it says, borei nefashos, he creates nefashos, what rabos v'chezronan, with many chesronos, with many things that are lacking, right? So here they translate with all of them having needs, but the Chafetz Chaim reads this. The Chafetz Chaim says the world is sustained by kindness. He says that Borei Nefashos blessing is unique in thanking God for having created numerous things with their lacks. Rabos, with many chesronon, with many chesronos, with many lackings. And we say that because we understand that we have to be we have to rely on other people. Al kol masha barasa lachayos bahem nefesh kol chai. Right? We need other people. We need other people to help us through our lives. And it's very important for us to understand that it's that the foundation of society is built by us all needing each other. And so we have to thank God for that. We have to thank God that he didn't make us all self-sufficient. So this way we can have other people help us. So that's the real Torah concepts that we have of gratitude. But when we go into looking into gratitude, when you start looking into the things of latitude, you realize that science and all the studies, and there's so many studies, shows that gratitude brings happiness and appreciation. As it says, it's not happiness that brings us gratitude. It's actually the opposite. It's gratitude that brings us happiness. And I'm going to show you a very quick video of some of the science of gratitude.
Research shows that adopting an attitude of gratitude, simply expressing appreciation and being more thankful, can measurably improve your overall well-being. For example, studies prove that gratitude can increase happiness, reduce depression, and strengthen resiliency. Grateful people often experience reduced blood pressure, less chronic pain, increased energy, even longer lives. People who purposefully express more gratitude report higher self-esteem than those who don't, and they're more likely to help others, a pro-social behavior also linked to greater happiness. People who capture grateful thoughts before bed sleep better than those who don't. Why so many positive changes? Because gratitude actually rewires our brains, kickstarting the production of dopamine and serotonin. Like antidepressants, these feel-good neurotransmitters activate the bliss center of the brain, creating feelings of happiness and contentment. This appears to be self-perpetuating. Research suggests that with regular practice, you'll train your prefrontal cortex to better appreciate and retain positive experiences and thoughts, and to deflect the negative ones. Here are a few simple ways to deliberately cultivate that attitude of gratitude. Celebrate minor accomplishments. Think about what you have rather than dwelling on what you don't. Tell the people in your life something you appreciate about them. Tell yourself too. Volunteer, hold a door for a stranger, or simply smile more, and you'll probably feel better, as kindness and giving are connected to gratitude. Similar positive brain changes can occur from regular meditation and mindfulness. Keep a daily gratitude journal using an old-fashioned notebook or a high-tech app. The science is clear. Give gratitude a go. You'll be thankful you did.
We're going to talk about a lot of these ideas. I have a lot of ideas on how we can work on gratitude, and some of them I think you probably never thought about. But you know, when I first started this, I'm like, oh well, everybody's going to know some of these. But actually, as I started going, I started to even some of the ones that I've been thinking about and finding all over, working on this. You know, as I put it into play, I feel like I feel much better, and I found a lot of these things to really be helpful in expressing gratitude and really changing my whole mindset on things. It's really just it's really good. So we're going to do some tips for working on gratitude. So the person who I find who's the best at gratitude is Oprah. In her show, she's done so much when it comes to talking about gratitude. And here she says that we should focus on what we have and not what we don't. And she really breaks it down to the very, very basics. We're not going to see that too many videos to really cut out a lot, but we're going to see a couple. And so this one, I tried to take the best ones, but Oprah happens to be very good when she talks about gratitude in a number of places. So this is a good one. Oh, wait.
When you think you don't have anything, I always say, go back to your breath. And what I know is that if you just start with your breath and start being grateful for that, it's thinking about what you have versus what you don't have, and focusing on the one thing that you are grateful for increases the energy of gratitude and rises just a little bit the joy inside yourself, just a little bit. If you can just get to one good feeling helps build on another good feeling and another good feeling. Just the idea of saying, I'm grateful for my breath. I am grateful that I was able to get up and walk on both legs this morning, and really feel that. I am grateful that I'm able to use my hands. I think about Monica George every time I go to reach for something. Monica George, who was the mother who was on our show, who'd gone into the hospital to have her second child and contracted a disease and had to have both her arms and both her legs cut off. She said, get me out of here so I can get home and take care of my babies. Salute you for the light that you bring. Starting with what you have and what you can do versus what you can't, focusing on the $3 in your wallet will bring you $5 sooner than focusing on the $50 you don't have. So if you allow yourself to get to the space of a good feeling, I don't care what that good feeling is, a good feeling increases more good feeling. In the same way that being in a bad situation and focusing on the bad situation continues to make you feel worse. First thing I do when I get up in the morning is read some kind of spiritual material. I read some kind of spiritual enlightenment. So I start my day with something that is going to put me in a positive frame of mind so that I begin attracting to me positive energy. So what this means that you've watched this right now, it means you've opened up just a little channel of energy to allow some joy to rise in yourself.
It's funny that I thought it was actually funny that when she's starting to talk about just the basics of breath, and then when there was an ad, I don't know if you caught the ad, but it was for diamonds. So it was, yeah, it was actually really funny. But so if you notice, everybody who's talking is talking about meditation. They're talking about what we do is daven. You know, the first thing we do in the morning when we wake up is we say modane, but we daven. And part of the davening is we have these brachos, pokeach ivrim, amatir asurim, zokev kifufim. We talk about the things, the basic things that people take for granted. And many people can't walk. Many people can't see. Many people can't hear. And we have to realize that each one of these things is a gift that we've been given, and we have to thank God for that gift. Rabbi Dr. Polkowitz said that he tells a story that he was speaking, and this Hasidic guy comes up to him at the end of his speech, and he says to him that he had a daughter that was severely autistic, and she had a lot of physical issues, and she couldn't sit up straight. She couldn't sit up straight. So so the family asked, found out through some research that there's one place in like Australia that had people who could work with exactly her condition and get her to sit up straight, but she would have to go for long periods of time. So he went off and he took the whole life savings and he went to Australia and he sat with them, and she was making amazing progress, but they ran out of money and he couldn't do it anymore. So he went to them and they said, well, sorry, you know, this is a very specialty skill, and it's not like anybody could do it. And if you can't be here, there's no way you could really do it. But he said that the guy who said, this is my daughter, I'm not going to do anything, you know? So he fought and fought and fought with them, and he made them, you know, he forced them to teach him what they were doing with her. And he said, so he said that, you know, that for 6 years he's been working with the daughter, and how hard it is that they basically spend the whole day, a lot of the day working different things. He and his wife both work, and the rest of the family, they all learn the technique and they all work with her. And then he goes, I want to introduce you to my daughter. And she rides in and she's sitting up straight, and she's already she's 9 years old at that point, and she's sitting up straight. She was very autistic. He said, yeah, but she was sitting up straight. And he said, you know, we take it for granted. Some people are working for years and years and years and years and years just to sit up straight, you know, and how much we should be appreciative of those things that we have. This is another thing that Oprah Winfrey said at one of the, it was not her quote, but she did say it on her a speech that she gave for a graduating class. She says, do not waste your time desiring what other people have. Remember, the things that you now have are the things that you once only hoped for. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful quote. Many times, you know, we have certain things and we don't realize the progress that we made within our life. I remember Rabbi Reisman told the story that he had a student who came, he was a Baal Tshuva, and he just couldn't read Hebrew. He couldn't read anything, and he was very depressed, and he was trying so hard to read, and he couldn't read. And so he So he used to come to his house a lot, and he would work with him, and he'd work with him. Then he didn't see him for a year. He comes back to his house after a year, and he comes back, and he's so he says, okay, let's learn a little bit. He sits down, and he quickly reads through the Gemara, and then he's struggling with Rashi, and he's really depressed. And he says, I just can't read this Rashi. And he says, I don't know, I just feel like I want to give up. I just can't read the Rashi. And Rabbi Reisman said, he turned to him and he said, a year ago you were here. You couldn't read the words at all at the Chumash. You were crying that you couldn't read a word. Now you just ran through it in 2 seconds, and now you're struggling with a harder thing, Rashi, a harder thing. You made tons of progress, but you don't see it in the everyday. You would have killed a year ago to just be able to read that Chumash. And now, look, you're struggling with something else. But I think that's for like everything in our life. I think often in our lives, we are like that we only see we don't see the progress. We don't remember that the things that we had, that we now have, one day we were wishing, are we going to meet the right person? Or are we going to have a roof over our head? Are we going to be able to support ourselves? Are we going to have food? All these things. Are we going to have, family that we are going to love us? All those things are things that we davened for at one point, and now often we just take it for granted. The Gemara, the Gemara tells us that we have to say 100 brachos a day. Why do we say 100 brachos a day? So the Gemara tells us that the whole reason is so we should be showing appreciation throughout the whole day. That we shouldn't be a one-shot deal. Every time we do something, every time we eat, every time we go to the bathroom, every time we do anything, we see a rainbow, we should start appreciating the world around us. So I was thinking about this, and I thought about this idea that if you take one thing and you study it, the more you understand about it, the more you come to appreciate it. And so this way, before you eat something, let's say you're going to have a salad, if you ask yourself, well, how is this salad made? Like baby corns, like where do baby corns come from? Do they grow like that? We know that carrots are like cut. They don't actually grow as baby carrots, but how about baby corns? So I looked that up, but you can look it up yourself. It's like, how do you get those things? So if you actually look at the things and look at what goes into it, what it takes for you to get your food, what it takes, just look at how many steps it takes to get your food to the market. And then you say your brachos, you're going to be much more thankful for everything that it takes for you to get what you have. We have food coming from all over the world, so many different stages. If we start just thinking about it, the more we know about it, the more we could appreciate it, the more thankful we are for it. There's a story. I don't know. I can't find the source of this story except for Jewish sources. All the Jewish, there's like 1 million Jewish sources for this story, but it's Toscanini and the missing violin. So Toscanini's story is that Toscanini, he's a famous composer. He's actually started the Israeli Philharmonic, but the short story is that his biographer was interviewing him, and he played for him a masterwork that Toscanini did not play. He was just asking his opinion on it. And Toscanini said there's a missing violin there. So he said, what do you mean? There's 14 violins in this place. He said there's 14 violins, but I only heard 13 violins. So the biographer thought he was like, that's impossible. How could you tell if there's 14 violins or 13 violins? But he went and he did research, and sure enough, that day when that piece was made, one of the violin people didn't show up. So how could Toscanini know that? Because he was a connoisseur of life. He was a connoisseur of the music. He could hear it. We can't hear it. I can't hear. I don't know if there's 2 violins or 1 violin. I have no idea. But he's a connoisseur of that. He knows exactly how many should be. He could hear each and every violin. And that's the way we should be with our lives. We should be a connoisseur of life. And we should start appreciating all the different parts of our life. And the more you know about it, the more of an expert you are in it, the more you'll appreciate it in your life. Now, one way of doing this is to have a gratitude journal. I keep a gratitude journal. I think it's a really important thing. I want Oprah to explain to you what a gratitude journal is.
What I know for sure is that no matter what is going on in your life, I believe if you concentrate on what you have, you will always end up having more, even if it's just $2. If you focus on what you don't have, you will never, ever, ever have enough. So 16 years ago, I started a gratitude journal. Y'all can sit down. 16 years ago, I started a gratitude journal, and I will have to say, it was the single most important thing I believe I've ever done. So every day, for years now, I've written down 5 things to be grateful for. And you have to write them down. It's very different than just saying, oh, I'm grateful for today. You have to physically write them down because there's power in the words. Even simple things like fresh flowers or somebody holding the door open for me. So when you wake up in the morning and you consciously look for things to be thankful for, what happens is if you go through the day thinking about the 5 things that you're going to do in the evening, you are more alive and receptive to the goodness that comes in your life. Because sometimes it is as simple as somebody holding the door. One time it was just 2 squirrels eating. I said, I better write that down. So when you allow yourself to feel gratitude in the present moment, in the now, what I promise you is that the spiritual dimension of your life begins to change. It opens up, it expands, and you just grow with it. That is the truth. If I ever spoke the truth in my life, if you want to change your state of being, start to be grateful.
So what she says is so important. When you sit with these 5 things, right? And you say, I'm going to write down throughout the day, I'm going to write down 5 things that I'm appreciative. All day you're thinking about things to be appreciative of. You're looking for it. You're thinking about it. You wake up and you're like already saying, what can I be? What is that? What good things are happening to me? You're already starting on such a positive note. Many people start, they're very negative, and then the negativity builds and they're like, oh, could this day get any worse? And then the day gets worse. You know, the second you say that, then the day gets worse. Why did this day get worse? Because they're looking for the worst. If you're looking for the best, then you're going to find it. Could this day get any better? Then it will get better because you're looking for it. If you look for things within your day, you'll find them. So that's what the high idea of this gratitude journal is that you're going to be looking for things throughout the day on what can I write in my gratitude journal? What 5 things? That's a special thing. And I was thinking, I think about things and you're like, wow, that's something I never would have thought about, but I want to now express it in my journal. And she said the words matter, and it's true. It's not only because the words matter on just writing, but when you do it, when you actually write it, it cements it into your memory. So now it's become a memory for you to have.
What I know for sure is that no matter.
I'm not going to play. I'm not going to play this video, but I'm going to tell you the story quickly, and you can watch it if you want. It's Captain Charlie Plumb. Captain Charlie Plumb was a captain who was taken captive. And what happened is he parachuted out, and he was saved from his plane, and he was taken captive. And he said he's sitting at a restaurant, and you'll hear the story yourself. It's a very powerful story. But he was sitting at a restaurant, and somebody comes over to him, and he finds out that this is the guy. This is the guy who packed his parachute. He's the guy who packed his parachute, who saved his life. And he said, like, he was the big fighter pilot. Like, he was the big pilot. He never thought about the guy. That guy was a nobody. He was a nobody. He was just sitting. He was just some guy in the basement who packed parachutes, right? And he was a nobody. But then that parachute is what saved his life. Is this big fighter pilot's life? And we don't appreciate all the things that people do for us. They're small. They may be small things, but sometimes those small things could be big things in our life. You know, even small, you know, even people who put the food on the shelf in like ShopRite, so I could find them. I can now find that food. I am always so careful to go over to all the cleaning people, the night cleaning people before I leave at my job. I go over and I thank all the thing. Why? Because those are thankless jobs. Nobody's even there at night, and nobody thanks them when they go out, right? But if it wasn't for those people, I would be coming into a really dirty school, right? And those people are working really hard. They're working hard, not for themselves, for our benefit, for all the things that they do to make the room clean. If we had a dirty school, then you know, nobody would ever go to that school. Who would go to that school? So I have a job because of that night cleaning people, and nobody thanks them. So you have to, if you think about what people do, maybe you say it's a small job, but there's no real small job, because those are jobs that I'm not doing, but yet I'm benefiting from those jobs. Very important to be appreciative of those things.
I sat down in a restaurant in Kansas
Oh,
City
sorry.
where I used to live.
Tony Robbins is another one who talks a lot about appreciation. So here he'll talk a little bit about the gifts of appreciation in any situation.
I'm 55 years old. I've raised 3 amazing kids. I built a beautiful business. I've had a great life. I'm blessed for being a 2-time stage 4 cancer survivor. I have an autoimmune disease that the doctors told me I have 5 years to live. Life has blessed me with many, what people would say, hardships. I call them blessings because the story's not over. And every little hardship that they say can turn into an amazing victory that can solidify your soul even stronger, that you can touch other people with your new story. This is just an acceptance of the situation, a lot of gratitude, and this is the outcome from it.
So here's the problem. It's the holidays. You're excited. You want to be there for your family, for your friends. You want to take it all in. And yet, then there's this other challenge, which is there are all these stresses around us, and we all are born with a 2 million-year-old brain. A brain that's always looking to protect us from something wrong. A brain that's looking for what's wrong. And of course, what's wrong is always available. You know, there's always some challenge to be faced, always something to be concerned about, something to be stressed about, something to be frustrated about, something to be worried about. But you know what? What's wrong is always available, so is what's right. Gratitude is the one emotion that is the antidote to what messes up our life. There's so many emotions that mess us up, but if you had to pick the 2 primary ones that mess up relationships, mess up your career, mess up your happiness, what are they? Fear, and on the other side, anger. This holiday, it's time to activate gratitude. Have you ever had a moment that was just a total sacred moment, or a gift that you felt grateful for? Or maybe a moment when you met someone, you were going one place, you met someone you totally love, or maybe the love of your life today. Just take a moment and think about this. And if you really want to have a completely different holiday, then what you want to do is train your brain to look for what's right. Train your brain to appreciate. Why not just have a daily practice of at least finding 3 things you can feel grateful for, and don't think about it intellectually. Actually step in your body and focus on it like you're back in that moment. It could be a moment from 20 years ago, 10 years ago, it could be from today. But let the power of gratitude roll over you and battle the one thing that gets in the way, that law of familiarity. The law of familiarity says if you're around anything enough, you tend to take it just a little bit for granted. It's human nature. And the way to stop that is stop, feel it, and appreciate it. Let your consciousness, your heart, your soul guide you instead of your head and your mind.
P-H-O-S-H.
Change.
The idea of familiarity is one of the big issue, really, of why we are not thankful. Is because that's why we have to have different skills each time, different things about it. We see even in what he said, how the person was so thankful for the time that he has and how much he has more to do in his life. Now he's even thinking about Rabbi Sacks. he put out this book on morality at the end of his life. Like, he made the most of the time that he had left, and he made that available. And if he didn't take advantage, if he got down and depressed, then we would never have had that book. He wouldn't have left us with one more thing to learn from. I think this was a good idea on ways of saying appreciation, is that people give brachos to their children on Shabbos. And it's usually just the generic bracha. I do the generic bracha, but I came across this and I think it's such a great idea. I think I said it from Rabbi Dr. Pelkowitz also. So he says, when you give a bracha, point out what you appreciate about that child. What is special about that child that you're giving the bracha for? And then give a bracha also that you should enhance that ability. Rav Yerucham Levovitz writes that if the bracha is what you want and not what is they are, then it's not going to work. You have to think about them, and then what would it be a bracha for them, and then give them that bracha too, along with what you're saying. The seed has to be there. Dr. Pelkowitz, yeah. So Dr. Pelkowitz says this great story. So he says that there was a person who survived the concentration camp, and he said, how did he do it? So he said that he used to remember the way his father would always give him a bracha on Shabbos, and the way he would go and kiss him on the head after he gave the bracha. He would give him a kiss on the head, and he said, I would feel that breath, the breath of his father on his head. And that was enough to say that if he had a vision for the future for me, I have to have a vision for the future for me too. And that's what kept him going. And so it's important that our children understand that it's not just something by rote, but we want the best for them, and we appreciate who they are as people. We want to give them that particular bracha. Reviewing at the Shabbos table does that. Reviewing, saying what you're thankful for at the Shabbos table is so important because it helps solidify the memories that you have, makes them stronger. And as you tell it over and over and over, it becomes a part of you, and you appreciate those moments all the more. Write a letter to somebody who helped you. This is another beautiful story that Dr. Pelkowitz said, that he said his daughter was once, is very, very into Tanakh. She loves Tanakh. She's always reading Tanakh. So one of the teachers at the school said, you're so great Tanakh. How come you're so into Tanakh? So she said that she had a teacher when she was younger, and he showed her the love of Tanakh. He just had such an enthusiasm of Tanakh, and he gave her a love of Tanakh. So the teacher said, well, does he know it? Does he know that it means that much to you? So she says, I have no idea. So she said, well, why don't we track him down? So they went and they tracked him down. Turns out he made Aliyah. She calls him up and she says, I just wanted you to know that every day I read Tanakh. It's my favorite book, and it's all because of you. It's because you taught me how to love Tanakh. And he said to her, you don't know what that means for me that you said this. He said, I am in a very tough situation. We made Aliyah. I'm having a lot of trouble with the Aliyah. I went to the school. The kids don't seem to listen to me. They're not really interested. And I was ready to give up. I'm thinking about giving up the whole thing because, like, what am I doing here? And by you saying that this so many years later, that it had a big impression. So I have hope that maybe I'm affecting some of the kids. Maybe I should keep going on and doing this. You never know. If somebody did something nice for you, let them know that you appreciate them for it. Before we go to sleep, when you lie down, you will not be afraid. Your sleep will be sweet. This is from Mishle, right? Before you go to sleep, and that she talked about it, Oprah alluded to it a little bit, but think about what you're grateful for. If you think about what you're grateful for, you'll find yourself being able to sleep better. You'll go to sleep faster, and you'll be much happier when you get up, rather than thinking about the problems. People stay up because they're thinking about all the problems, but instead try to switch it and think about what things am I happy for? Now, this I thought was really brilliant. Some of these things I never really thought about until I came across it. 7 common situations when we say all sorts of things, but really we should say thank you instead. So look at this. Oh, I have to move everybody. I can't. Okay. Say thank you. What? I can't see. Whatever. Say thank you when you're receiving a compliment. Sorry about this. Am I still sharing? Yes. Okay. Say thank you when you're receiving a compliment. We often ruin compliments by devaluing the statements by acting overly humble. Internally, you might think this prevents you from appearing arrogant or smug. The problem is, and I never thought about this. The problem is that by deflecting the praise of genuine compliment, you don't acknowledge the person who is nice enough to say something. Simply say thank you fully acknowledges the person who made the compliment and allows you to enjoy the moment as well. It's important to say thank you. Thank you for that compliment, rather than saying, oh, you know, it wasn't me, because then you minimize it and you minimize it to yourself. And as you are saying it, as you're saying it, the other person, you're able to appreciate along with the other person. Is everybody still okay? Could you all see me? Okay. Thank you when you're running late. This is very interesting. Being late is the worst. It's stressful for the person who's running late and disrespectful to the person who's waiting. It might seem strange to thank someone for dealing with your hassle, but that's exactly the correct response. Most people stumble in the door and say, sorry, I'm late. The problem is this response still makes the situation about you. Sorry, I'm late, saying thank you turns the tables and acknowledges the sacrifice the other person has made by waiting for you. Thank you for waiting. When we make mistakes, someone else often makes a sacrifice. Our default response is to apologize for our failure, but the better approach is to praise the patience and loyalty. Thank them for what they did because of your error. I think that that's very powerful idea. Next, say thank you when you're comforting somebody. When somebody comes to you with bad news, it could be awkward. You want to be a good friend, but most people don't know what to say. I know I felt that way before. Oftentimes we think it's a good idea to add a silver lining to the problem. Well, at least you have. What we fail to realize is that it doesn't matter if you don't know what to say. All you really need to do is be present and thank them for trusting you. For example, your co-worker's mother passed away recently. Instead of, at least you have a lot of fond memories to hold on to, try saying, thank you for sharing that with me. I know this is really hard for you. In times of suffering, we don't need to hear words to ease pain as much as we need someone to share the pain. That's the whole idea of Shiva, right? You don't have to say anything at the Shiva. You just have to be there for the person. When you don't know what to say, just say thank you and be there for them. Say thank you when you're receiving helpful feedback. Feedback can be very helpful, but rarely we see it that way. Whether it's an unflattering performance review from your boss or an email from an unhappy customer, the standard reaction is to get defensive. That's a shame because the correct response is simply to just say thank you and use the information to improve yourself. This work isn't good enough. I thought you would do better. Instead of saying, you don't understand, here's what's really happened, try to say, thank you for expecting more of me. Say thank you when you're receiving unfair criticism. Sometimes criticism isn't helpful at all, just vindictive and mean. One of the best approaches is just to say thank you and move on. When you say thank you to someone who's criticizing you, it immediately neutralizes the power of their statement. If it's not a big deal to you, it can't grow into a later argument. So for instance, somebody says, instead of saying, they said, that's the dumbest thing I've read all week, you say, instead of saying you're an idiot, let me tell you why. Try saying, thank you for the feedback. I still have a lot to learn. And releasing the need to win every argument is a sign of maturity. As I try to talk to my kids about a lot. It's not a matter of winning the argument. Someone on the internet says something wrong, so what? You win the argument by just going on with your life. 6, say thank you when someone gives you unsolicited advice. Most people are just trying to be helpful, but hearing someone's opinion about you when you didn't ask for it can be annoying. Pointing out others' faults doesn't remove your own. Thank people for raising your self-awareness, even if it was unsolicited. And finally, say thank you when you're not sure if you should thank someone. When in doubt, just say thank you. There's no downside to it. You're honestly worried about showing too much gratitude in your life? Should I send a thank you card in this situation? The answer is always yes. The more thank you say, the better you are. Okay. Now, I'm not going to play this video only because it's late, but this is Robert Emmons. He writes a book called Thanks, How Practicing Gratitude Can Make You Happier. Rav J.G. Schachter did a whole shir on why Yutori could hear on this, he's thankful for his mother. But he says gratitude is recognizing the source of goodness lies in at least partially outside myself. One can be, that's a big part. He says there's 2 stages to gratitude. One, the first stage is not acknowledgement of the goodness in one's life, and the other is to realize that it's not only about me, that sometimes it's outside myself. So it's already late. I'll leave these movies. It's a powerful movie. It's a little movie about the idea of saying thank you to somebody who's been in your life. So I'm not going to spend the next 5 minutes on this, but I think that if we add, we're coming up to Thanksgiving now. And that last slide of thank you, Hashem, I think is very, very important. The idea that we have to be thankful, that when we look around, Thanksgiving is a good time to think about the thanks that we have, all the good things we have. It's even though it's maybe hard, it may be a difficult year. I was going to talk about, do that a little bit more, but still, if when we come up to Thanksgiving, we should be thankful for everything that we do have in our lives. And look forward to a stronger year in the future. So thank you all. I wish you all thank you for coming to this class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Wonderful course.
Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, have a great night.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.